Welcome to our next StableNet tutorial. Today I want to talk about advanced reporting with Excel using Power Query to give you even more powerful options to work with reports in StableNet combined with later on functionality of Excel. To that end, I first want to show you a resulting report that I actually want to achieve in this tutorial so that you know what you can get at the end. And then I will be explaining the different steps in StableNet using some Python code as well as Power Query in Excel. So let's first look at the final result. To that end, I've already generated a report for some interface examples of the last 26 weeks. And I'm actually now saving this to my file system, to my download folder. And from there, I just downloaded it. If I'm sorting by date, it's this one here. And I will just open this in Excel. And you can see here that it actually tells me this is just a template file. Once loaded into StableNet as Excel template, it will be filled with relevant data. If you see this text after opening the report from StableNet or your email inbox, please right-click the table and choose Refresh. So I'm doing precisely this. I'm right-clicking it and clicking Refresh, Aktualisieren in German. So I'm doing this. It takes a short moment, and here we are. I got my final report. And what I actually got here in this report is the following. I have a report which has raw data from StableNet for different weeks of interface measurement. So I have the first week, which is the current week, the week that just ended from 11th of April till 18th of April. And I got here 49 interfaces that I'm monitoring. And for each of these 49 interfaces, I got the average max in octets, out octets, in utilization and out utilization for this 1 week that I'm looking at. If I'm going to the next sheet, 01, I'm going a week back. So this is April 4th till April 11th. And here I'm going another week back. This is March 28th till April 4th, and so on and so forth. So I have like the last 26 weeks included here in the report. You can also see that not all the interfaces have been measured for so long time in the past, so some measurements here in the past are empty. And now at my final sheet that I have at the very beginning, the overview sheet, I'm actually combining all that data of all the metrics in a single table. So I got here my calendar weeks, like calendar week 42, 2021, 43, 2021, and so on and so forth, up to the most recent week. And for each of these weeks, I actually get these values of the different calendar weeks, of the different metrics for each interface. So if I'm just picking that first interface here, ROGAT IRB10, I'm getting all the different metrics that I had for this first one. I got the 8 metrics, and for the 8 metrics, I got all the values from all the sheets. The second for the same for the second interface, and so on. So with this final table, I can use this as a base, for instance, to look at a single interface in more detail over all the weeks, or alternatively, I could also use this, for instance, looking just in one metric for all the different interfaces, all 49 over the different weeks. You can also see here now that not for all the interfaces we have been measuring those right from the beginning. So this is the target that I want to reach, and I will show today how to get there. So in order to do this, I'm using several things here. I'm starting with a report in StableNet that is preparing the raw data, and then I'm using an Excel template with some Power Query to actually reach that final result. So let's go one by one. To that end, I move into StableNet, and I see here that I have an interface example report for the last 26 weeks that I just opened, and I'm now going to the corresponding report in StableNet, opening that one. And if I'm looking at this one, we can actually see that it has a quite simple structure. It contains a base selection component here at the beginning, which is basically selecting all Cisco and Backbone devices in my virtual lab environment in my demo. And for those, I'm getting the interface total traffic. I can just show a preview of that. So this is just, okay, this is a picture here, but this doesn't matter. I'm just getting this data. So I have 49 interfaces in total that are delivering the data here. Um, but I'm not actually using this picture. It's not visible in my report. I'm just creating it in order to get the data. This is the dynamic report functionality that I have shown in another tutorial in detail. And now, based on the space selection, I'm having for each calendar week, I'm having a dynamic group chart, which is referencing to the space selection. And based on the space selection, I'm then giving an interface metric table with a certain number of columns selected. So here you can see that I have selected the average and maximum columns in and out for octets and utilization. And these columns are then part of the report. And I'm doing this here with a 0 offset. So I'm doing just the last full week. And if I'm going to the next one, I'm doing it with an offset of 1 week. So I'm doing the week before last week. And here I'm going with 2 weeks offset and so on. So this is how I do it up to 26 weeks, which means like 25 weeks before the last week. So this is the general structure of the report. And I'm using as a report template, I'm using an Excel file that we will have a look at in a moment to see how the Power Query is working. This is my setting in StableNet. If I run this, I get my report, and later on the Power Query will aggregate this overview sheet at the beginning. So now, going step by step, let's first look a bit more on how we can auto-create such a report, because obviously it needs quite some time to duplicate each row and to change the row by changing the offset. You could do this manually, you always can to influence this, but I've also prepared a short Python script which is doing this automatically for me. To that end here, I'm switching to my Jupyter lab, where I have an interactive Python notebook with not a lot of lines. What I'm basically doing here after importing some necessary Python modules is that I'm loading my base file and I'm extending it to more weeks, which I do by picking the component SNKW00, which I start with, and basically iterating over a range of number of weeks, in this case 26 weeks, and for each week I'm copying my week 0 and I'm just changing the row string with a new number in order to create a new row which is SNKW1, SNKW2, and so on and so forth. And if you look at the examples, I'll just show this here with the base file and the extended file, you'll better understand. So I have a base file. I'll first show maybe this base file in StableNet. So I've created a base report in StableNet. Let's look at this. It's just this one with a base selection and 1 calendar week. I can also open this real quick as a report dashboard in the browser so that we can get an understanding. So my base file is just containing the last week from April 11th till April 18th with the 49 interfaces, not more than that. This is my base report. I've actually saved this report to my file system with exporting it, export report jobs. Then I have in my Jupyter, I have uploaded this base file from my download folder here, the interface base file, and now here it is. And let's just look at this base file in the editor here. So if I look at this base file as XML, as many things in StableNet are XML, and what I can see down here is I have 2 report components in my report. I have this base selection, which is doing some group analyzer thing to select the relevant Cisco backbone VLAN tags. I can also see this filter here, clear text, so I can edit this as well if I want to. I'm not doing this, however, in this tutorial. And then I have a second reporting component down here, which is actually using a referent element reference, which is referencing to this first component. This is where the dynamic magic is happening with the dynamic reports. But the most important thing here is that I have here a in this case, I have the last week, and in this last week, I actually have my calendar week 0 without any offset. And now, if I'm running my script, so I'm running this one, and I'm running that one. I'm actually setting my offset multiplier to a number and my offset type to last week's. And if I'm now looking at the extended result file, I can see that I get again, I get this. Oh, this is actually the virtual machine template. Pardon me. I need to open the interface extended result file because I'm just working with my interface. I've done the same for VMware. So let's just run this code again with the interface extended result file. So I'm doing this, and now I got my interface extended result file. So all the top of the XML is exactly the same. I have my base selection with my Cisco backbone VLAB tag filter, and then I have my calendar week 0. But now if I look at the XML, I also get a calendar week 1 with an offset multiplier 1 of the last week. So it's shifted by 1 week to the past. I get calendar week 2 with an offset of 2 weeks, calendar week 3 with an offset of 3 weeks, and so on. So this is just a simple for loop in my Python, which is creating a final XML file for me. And now this final XML file, I can, maybe in order to show that this is really working, I will just change the number of week, let's say to 14. So now I'm creating a file which has 14 weeks, and I'm naming this 14. Here we are. This is my file, 14 weeks. Now I'm downloading this file that I just created. And now I'm going to StableNet, and I'm doing import report jobs. And from the download folder, I just pick my 14 file, which I just created in this moment. I'm opening it. And if I'm now looking at this, you can actually see that in this case, I have 13 weeks to the past, starting with a count of 0, which gets to a total of 14. So this is how this is working, and I can do this with any arbitrary number. So this is the first part. Again, I have a report in StableNet, in this case an interface report with a base selection and 26 with 26 weeks. And I can also do the same with any other report. For instance, in this case, this is a VMware example report with a base selection and 1 week. And I can then, after creating this extended file, which I already prepared here, I can import this. I'm then getting the same report with my 26 weeks. So up to 25, from 0 to 25. So that's the first part. Now the second part is generating this report. I will maybe here generate the VMware report. And while this is generating, I will now go to Excel in the next step and show you how this template is actually working. To that end, I'm going to my report templates in StableNet. And I'm here looking into this template aggregation per week template that I have created for that purpose. And I'm actually exporting this back to my disk. Oh, okay, I've already saved this some minutes ago. I will just override it here. It's the same, but I will override it. So that's what I did. And now if I go again to my downloads folder, sort by date, I actually get this template that I just downloaded in this minute. I'm opening it. And if we look at this template, then we can see that actually the first thing, this is a very short template. It's not a template which contains, as in the normal advanced Excel reporting templates without Power Query, it's not a template that really needs to contain all the calendar weeks that I want to have in my final report, but it can just contain this one calendar week, and this is enough to make my template run, because I can loop over all the weeks dynamically depending on how many I got. So the template is very short. It's just expecting at least one sheet which has a table contained, which has a title of the table. In this case, this is just a notification text. Later on, if you look at the final result, this one will be actually replaced by the name of the measurement metric. So in this case, interface or the measurement and the element. And now you get all the metrics here. In my template, I just write metric 1, 2, 3, 4 to have arbitrary metrics, but it also does work with any number of metrics you like. And the rest happens with Power Query in Excel. So now let me look into this Power Query. To that end, I'm here jumping to Power Query, to the data section, and I'm actually opening the Power Query editor. And in the Power Query editor, I can actually look into my Power Query, how this is working. So this is loading here. It's my query called aggregation of weeks. I'm opening that one. And if I'm looking at this here, so I actually get my aggregation of weeks in the first line. Okay, I've changed the name here, so this causes a small error because I recently changed this name. It should be Abfrage, but we can directly fix this. So you see this is a live tutorial here. So I'm getting here all the tables that are contained in my file, and the first table is my actually request, which is called aggregation of weeks, and the second one is called table 2. So I only want to work with these tables which contain the raw data coming from StableNet. I don't want to have this aggregation data. So I'm here changing this that all the tables starting with aggregation should not be considered. Just refreshing this, so my error is gone. And now let's go one by one. So I'm looking at all the tables that I get. I'm removing the actual query, and I just keep my tables with the metrics. Then I'm combining these tables. So I'm taking all the tables that I have. In this case, it is just one table, and I'm adding an extra column, which is containing the calendar week. This is done here with a list accumulation function. I think for the sake of time here, to make this not far too complicated, I will skip the details of calculating here that calendar week. But if you want to obtain this file precisely for this use case, please feel free to reach out to us, then we can provide it. But what I'm basically doing here is I'm looping over all the tables, and I'm combining all the tables, and for each tables I'm adding a column here with the calendar week. So in the next step, what I'm doing here is I'm now getting I'm now actually getting my column, which is the name of the element. So this will be later on where we have, for instance, the word interface. I'm getting this text here. This is what I want to obtain. So that's what I'm doing here in this step. To that end, I'm taking all the columns, and from all the columns, I'm taking the second one to the left, and then the first one to the right. This is a bit complex written, but this is the way how I could figure out doing this with Pivot Power Query here. And now, based on this, I'm actually unpivoting precisely this name column, which actually makes that I'm keeping this name. No, I'm uncommenting unpivoting the other columns, but I'm keeping this name column, and that actually leads me to this final effect that I have here my numbering at the beginning. I have my name column, which can have any arbitrary string. In this case, it's the string node. This is just a template, but this could be later on interface or VMware element or whatever. And then I'm having my calendar week, and besides that, I'm having all the different metrics by actually unpivoting them, and then I'm putting this together to my final table, which will actually now provide the calendar weeks. This is for the easy example with just here this one with this one sheet. And now if we look at if we actually look at this large example here with the many weeks included, then I'm again opening here my editor. Yeah, here it's still called Abfrage. And if I look here, you can actually see the same behavior again. At the beginning, we are getting all the different tables. So in this case, it's 26 tables with content and one table with the actual Power Query, Abfrage in German. So I'm removing this one. So I'm just keeping the 26 tables with the content. I'm combining these tables by putting them all together by adding a calendar week. So it's 49 entries with a calendar week 42, 49 entries with a calendar week 43, and so on. Then I'm picking my name column, which in this case is now the column interface, which is better understandable than the text that I previously had. So I'm picking the name of this column here, it's interface. And now what I'm doing is I'm precisely keeping these first three columns. No, pardon me, this column here with the numbering with the ID, this column with the interface name column, and this last column calendar week. I'm keeping those three, and the rest I'm unpivoting. And this actually gives me this behavior here, that instead of having 8 additional columns with the average and maximum octets and utilization in and out, I'm putting this into rows, and this delivers me the final table that I want to have if I'm now pivoting this with the calendar week. So I'm making this row entry calendar week, I'm making this a column. So I'm having here now the different calendar weeks and the values, and this is my final table. So so much maybe about the Power Query. So now the last thing would be now that I'm now taking this and actually now I'm running my I will be looking at my generated report that has been run in the meantime that I started some time ago with the VMware example. So I'm saving this example to my file system. It has been using the same template, but it's not interface measurement in this case, but it's a VMware. So this is saved now. Going to my downloads folder and here picking the VMware example that I just created. And I can see here that if this is opening, it contains, I'm activating the contents, it's containing all the raw data here, but there is no overview table yet. This first needs to be calculated. So I'm now starting my calculation. And I'm getting exactly the same issue that I had before because I have changed my the name of this survey to aggregation. So I will fix the same error here. I know what I need to fix. So what I need to fix here is that here it needs to say aggregation needs to be removed. There we go. And now I'm actually calculating this, actualizing it. It takes a short moment. And there we are. Here is my final result. So now I get for all the 29 virtual machines that I have in each week, I have always 29 machines. I get for all the 29 machines here, 29 of those. There we are, 29. I get all the different metrics of this virtual machine. So it's a lot of metrics here. I have not excluded anything in StableNet. And for all these metrics, for each calendar week, I get a value. So now I can, for instance, say, please just show me the maximum CPU usage. And there we go. I get my 29 machines with the maximum CPU usage over the last half a year, 26 weeks. Yeah. So summing up, I will just fix here the small typing error that I had by taking my template, re-importing for all the reports here. Just need to make sure I saved this. So I had fixed this here. I had will double check. I've been in the editor here, where the survey is now called aggregation of weeks, the query, and I had fixed this here in the second line, so this one is saved. I'm saving it again, closing it, and now I'm in StableNet. I'm actually re-importing the file that I just saved a minute ago, so this is done. And if I'm now rerunning that report, so I'm again running my VMware report, there we go. It will take a short moment, and then I will get a new VMware report without that that error that I had still in my template. So I like this in tutorials when you see that it's live, because there is some stuff that you actually need to work with. So here we are. There's my new report that just appeared some seconds ago. I'm saving this to my disk. Don't need to take care about the file name because StableNet automatically puts timestamps into this file name. I'm just refreshing my folder, and there we are. I got my new VMware example. I'm opening this. I'm having the same raw data, and in this case, I can just refresh, and here we go. This time it went all right. I didn't get an error, so this worked all fine. So I have shown you in this tutorial that you can use Power Query for extended advanced reports in StableNet by first creating a report in StableNet. I picked the example of such last 26 weeks, but obviously you can pick any other arbitrary example of StableNet. You need a template in Power Query, in Excel using Power Query, which can be very, very short. As you can see here in these examples, the template doesn't have a large file size, is very small, which is also nice, and it's working dynamically with any arbitrary number of sheets. And then as a final result, you actually get a file that will then blow up and show you the final values. That's all from my side. Thank you very much. And if you are interested in getting more information, either that template file in Excel with the Power Query to work with it as a base, or in this Python script here that I have used, a small Python workbook to auto-create longer reports, please feel free to reach out to me or to my colleagues. Thank you very much.